Welcome to Advanced Techniques in Coreldraw. I'm Mary Winkler for Tuts Plus. In this lesson, I'll introduce our course project, the digital still life. Then, we'll get started with a textured background to set the stage for the rest of our design. Let's get to it. To start, let's take a look at my final illustration, which I created earlier and is the basis for this course. It's a pretty simple scene, showcasing several items you might find on your desk while having a coffee and donut break. The final image we create together will look a little different for variety's sake, but this was created with the same techniques we'll explore in this course. I definitely encourage you to take whatever artistic liberties you see fit when finalizing your design. But for now, let's create something together. Create a new document. Mine is 12 inches by 8.3 inches. It's fairly arbitrary, but it's what I used in the original design. Give it a name, make sure it's set at 300 dpi, and hit OK. Make sure to save your document periodically throughout this lesson and the rest of this course. Use the Rectangle tool, shortcut F6, to draw a large rectangle over your page's boundaries. In the Object Properties docker, select a fountain fill. I was already playing with some shades of teal in my document, so I have them at the ready. You can choose a flat fill color from the color picker, and it'll be applied to the gradient automatically. Set the right color as a darker shade of teal and choose Elliptical Fountain Fill for the fill type. Using the Interactive Fill tool, shortcut G, adjust the radius of the elliptical fountain fill so it's less circular and more elliptical. It's difficult to adjust what's essentially a shadow without objects, so we're using this as a general guide for where our objects will be placed in the future. Next, let's draw another rectangle over the first. You can also just copy and paste it or simply duplicate it by hitting Ctrl D. Make sure there's no outline, and under Fill, we're going to choose a Bitmap Pattern Fill. While we could scan a texture or create our own texture for this part of the course, I really encourage you to check out what Corel's Content Exchange holds. Users are creating useful vector and bitmap textures in this section all the time, and while it may take a minute to load, it's worth the wait for sure. Let's take a proper look at the Content Exchange. I'll resize my window so you can see the entire menu. You'll find a few options to choose from: Favorites, Upvotes, Content Exchange, and Personal. In the Content Exchange, there are assorted textures from users all over the world. Under Texture, which is where the recycled paper texture I used was sorted, you'll find many designs that would be a great addition to your illustration. Let's get back to our document. I'll be choosing a recycled paper-like texture for my image. You can try whatever takes your fancy. Paper, wood, grainy, whatever. Consider lighter or neutral colors for your background texture because it will show through the bright teal we used for the initial rectangle. Choose your texture and wait for it to load. Once it does, we'll move on to completing our background. In Object Properties, under Transparency, choose Multiply for the blending mode, and reduce the opacity of the textured rectangle as you see fit. My transparency is set to 41. That's it for our simple background. Applying a texture to kick things up a bit is rather easy. Thank you so much for joining me in this quick lesson in creating a background for our digital still life. In our next lesson, we'll start in our first objects, a couple of napkins.